Shalom Aleichem, and welcome to the Issachar B70 Fellowship. I'm Stephen, and grace and peace to you from our Lord, Savior, and King Jesus Christ. Sunset today marks the beginning of a Jewish New Year with the blowing of the Shofar to commemorate the Feast of Trumpets. More importantly, this feast is prophetic of Christ's return at the Last Trumpet. If we go by the official Jewish calendar, we are entering the Hebrew year AM 5780. AM or Anno Mundi means year after creation, meaning we are entering the 5780th year after creation. But if we take into account the possibility that there are 165 missing years in this calendar, which I've covered in my study, then this brings us much closer to the end of the Sixth Millennium at AM 5945. In my own study, where I've based my dates on the chronology of people and events in the Bible, we are even nearer at AM 5979, before Christ returns to usher in His Millennial Sabbath Rule, as symbolized by the seventh day of the original creation account. Looking back, the Issachar B70 journey started 3 years earlier in May 2016, with a prophetic word that the Lord released in His kairos, or appointed time, a word that I was commissioned to write down. Although I didn't know then when or where it would end, God knew, and His kairos, exactly 2 years later, in May 2018, I finished putting down all that was needed to be said, and the full B70 materials can be found here in my website. It was only recently that I realized how prophetic God's timing was. God ensured that I finished putting down His word for His people in the very month that Israel celebrated 70 years of nationhood since its rebirth in May 1948. It is my personal belief and deep conviction that God's final countdown started from that kairos moment, meaning that some of us here will live to witness Christ's return. Since then, I have put up short YouTube podcasts, each lasting just a few minutes, every 1st and 15th day of the month, to unpack the word that the Lord has for His people, to prepare this final generation for His soon return. We are now slightly past the halfway mark in my series of podcasts, which will end just before we enter into the next Jewish New Year in September 2020. From then on, I hope to faithfully repeat my series of podcasts every Sabbath or Friday evening, completing each cycle of the entire Issachar B70 message according to the cycle of the Jewish year, year after year after year, so as to keep the flame of God's truth alive, even as the world grows darker. I guess time will tell if I heard my Lord correctly, or am I merely deluded? Like the man of Issachar, we are called to understand the times and know what we should do. For my wife and I, we have chosen to start realigning our lives to what we believe is God's rhema for His people today. And that means recognizing and seizing every opportunity for fellowship now as God's means of preparing His people to encourage and support one another when the storms and trials eventually come, until we see our Lord return in His glory, or until He calls us home. As Hebrews chapter 10 verse 25 put it, let us not neglect meeting together, but let us encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. God bless you.
Mashiach